Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I am your host, Lauren. In today's episode, I have Heather. She is a lead gen and sales coach. Welcome, Heather. I'm so happy to have you here with us this afternoon.
Hey, Lauren, thanks for having me.
Of course. So we were talking a little bit before we got started to record, but kind of tell a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your story this far.
I'm Heather Wylde. I trained as a coach in 2009. I started taking online business courses about marketing and sales in 2013. And because I'm somebody that has not saying that I'm a perfect person because I'm definitely not, but I have a very keenly honed sense of integrity and what makes sense to me and what doesn't make sense to me. And so many of the trainings at the time didn't make any sense, and they really were employing very disgusting, manipulative, underhanded marketing and sales strategies. And I felt very taken advantage of. But I kept investing in my business because I do believe in mentorship. And everybody taught sales and marketing the same. And it was all this sleazy stuff that, as I was doing life coaching at the time, and then I switched to sex coaching. And I'm like, people are coming to me for help. There's no way that I'm going to feel comfortable manipulating them into buying something from me. Like I'm just they need it, but I'm not going to be sleazy. If I have to be sleazy to sell, then I'm not going to do it. So I started sounding the alarm about gross business practices in the coaching industry in 2013. And people gaslit me and told me that I was just being negative and I just needed to be more positive. And I got something out of those investments, even if I learned how to not do whatever they were doing, whatever. It was such a crock of shit. And cursing is okay because I curse a lot, but I can
Oh,
curse.
yeah. Mhm. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. You heard my name.
But yeah, I started talking about this in 2013, and I could never get my coaching business off the ground because I couldn't find a way of selling that felt good to me. So I quit the industry a bunch of times, and but I kept getting pulled back. And so I had to create a way of selling that didn't make me want to die. And once I did that, I was like, okay, other truly soul-led entrepreneurs need this. They need someone to help them create their way of selling so that they can get their powerful work out there. Because unfortunately, a lot of the people that are the biggest names that are making the most money in the industry, and this is not me hating on them, right? I'm just calling out the practices. A lot of the people that are making the most money, they're not really good at what they do. They're just really good at sales and marketing. But just because they're good at sales and marketing doesn't mean they can teach you a way of sales and marketing that will work for you. So it's my mission to empower, spiritual entrepreneurs, soul-led entrepreneurs, service-based to find their way of selling so that I can have this massive ripple effect by helping them thrive while they live their mission.
I love that. I love that. I just made a post. I don't know if you've seen it a couple of days ago about bro marketing. It triggered me so bad to get a email from my old mentor that she tried teaching me, she does have a lot of her tactics are really good, right? Like her,
Right.
like her masculine piece, and like she helped me become more organized. There's a lot of things I took that were good for her
Yeah.
from her, but she when she would be like, you have to call out people's pain points and you have to do this, and I'm like, so I have to bully people? Like, no, I'm not doing that. And I never did it. Like I just never did.
Mhm.
And I mean, I guess speaking truth and speaking like what you see is one thing, which I do that, but like
Right.
I'm not triggering people in my posts that they feel they legit feel shame, because when I would
Yeah.
read her post, I'm like, why do I feel shame when I read your posts? That's not a I just think that that's not okay. So I was like, do other people read my post and feel shame? And they're like, no, I don't know. I don't feel
Right.
guilty for not doing something or whatever. So yeah, that what you're saying is like it's more about, I feel like for me, about being authentic and being vulnerable. And I feel like people can't do that, especially right now in the space, because it's not a safe space. And in order to do that, you have to have a safe space to do that in, right? Yeah. So I love that you're doing this, and I wish and hope that more coaches and people are you know gonna go be on the path of doing the same thing versus manipulating people and just I don't know. I don't know how people lay their head down. Like I just manipulated 20,000 people to buy my thing and I'm rich. And, to be honest, I think subconsciously at a conscious level, they don't even really know they're doing that. It, I mean, maybe they do. Maybe I'm speaking for some people. Other people, they probably know exactly what they're doing, So, so
So I,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so I don't want to stay on this too long because I've done a lot of podcast interviews where I do just kind of like rant. And it is important to know for people to know, like, if you're working with these people who promise you the sun and moon and you didn't get any results, it's not because your mindset was bad. It's because they're a terrible coach and teacher, right? So that was one of the main narratives for a long time was like, if people don't get results, it's their fault. And it's like, yeah, but if you're a college professor and like 80% of your students are failing, it's not because you have bad students, it's because you're a bad teacher, right? And it's the same thing with coaching. If like you don't have a 70% plus success rate with people meeting or exceeding their goals, then there's something wrong with the way you're doing it, right? So but like that aside, I've written 2 books about problems in the coaching industry. They're both on Amazon. The last one was called What Every Entrepreneur Wishes They'd Known Before Hiring a Business Coach. And I talk about what I realized is that most of the sleazy stuff that we see in sales and marketing is based in NLP. And neurolinguistic programming is a fantastic transformative tool when it's used consensually for someone's transformation.
Right.
But in the hands of a bro marketer, it is used to bring out that shame, that guilt, basically to dysregulate your nervous system so that you feel like you've got to buy. And the punchline is that, so many coaches will use those disruptive techniques and then be like, well, what does your intuition tell you? You can't access your intuition when you are in a dysregulated state. You need to be like calm, right? So, and then the other thing I realized in researching my books, and I don't have any empirical data about this, but it was like, oh, a lot of the people that are super, super successful at marketing and sales are sociopathic and narcissistic. And they have this inherent charm and they have no qualms about saying, lying, or over exaggerating whatever to make a sale. So they're very, very good at it. And they're very attracted to the coaching industry because it's not really regulated. And they get a lot of fawning fans and they get money and they get fame and they can control people, right? So my book talks about how to, and I'm not a psychologist, I'm not claiming to be a psychologist, but it's just kind of common sense stuff. So my book walks you through how to like analyze people's marketing, analyze their sales, analyze your interactions with them so that you are less likely to end up in a $10,000 mistake with a non-terminable contract that you're on the hook for, even if the person ghosts you, right? So yeah. We could talk about this a little bit more, but I would rather switch to like how soul-led entrepreneurs can make sales without being sleazy. But yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, that we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. But yeah, I actually had to look at that in my own self too, because I kept hiring these narcissistic mentors. And my husband said to me, well, what's the because I mean, I'm looking at the pattern, like, why does this keep fucking happening? Like, this is why the tens and thousands of dollars, like, it needs to stop. I'm sick of it. And then all of a sudden something switched and I realized, oh, like this makes sense. And I seen the red flags. I would do like theta body testing and all that stuff. And my body is like, no. Like I could just simply ask, should I invest in this? And it's like, no, but I would not, I would ignore it.
Me too.
And so yeah, we can shift gears here, but I just figured this out before I hired my last mentor because it was really traumatic for me. And I know that some people are like, oh, that's not bad. It is when you're
It
investing
is.
$10,000 into a coach. I mean, I'm always open to be coachable and I know always need a mentor, but not all the time. I do know that.
Right.
So, but yeah, so I was like, I think it's time for me to get another mentor again. And it's like, oh God, I don't want to do that. So it's like, this is different. It's a different energy. It's a different frequency. It's a different community. It's like, everything is different. So I'm like, well, I guess this is going to be different. It feels different. So yeah.
Good.
Thank you I wanted to go back to you. Thank you for shining light on this and also I'll make sure that your links to your books. I don't think I have them, but when this episode comes out, I'll make sure that people, when they listen to this, they can access those books. Because I think a lot of people listening right now are going to be like, oh, I need that book. I need to read what she says because I feel like, or I need to go, how do I get in contact with her? I need to
Yeah.
go work with her, that type of thing.
Everybody who has read the book has said that it would have saved them thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars
Mhm.
in bad investments. So it really is great information. It's free on Kindle,
Okay.
and there's an ebook and there's also a hard copy. I'm probably going to take it off of Amazon eventually because I hate them. But for right now, it is on Amazon. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. There's like a 20-page free intro that you can read. So,
Okay.
somebody can get a really good chunk of information. But I was like, what do I wish I had known before I hired a business coach? Because mentorship is important. I think, especially if you're like, okay, as a business coach, I have spent over $100,000 on business coaching programs, courses, all that kind of stuff. And one of the things is that I know that I work better when I have accountability and I have support. I
Yes.
also want to make sure that I am teaching people what works in 2025, for instance, because that's when we're filming this, and not trying to teach somebody in 2025 what worked in 2019, because I see people paying tens of thousands of dollars for stuff that it's not a good strategy anymore. So, so yeah, I love that you still value mentorship and you didn't let people that those bad experiences scare you away, because one of the reasons why we're having so many problems with sales these days and they have slowed down and people are slower to convert is because so many people have been burned, and a lot of people have said, fuck it, I'm never hiring a coach again. And I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's very true. And it's like some people say, oh, because the market is shifting and this is shifting and that. No, yeah, sure. That's true. However, there's also a part of you. And the crazy part about it is that I have three specific people in my mind that literally that make content around this that are the same people that are the ones that burn people. So it's like in the
Yes.
content, I'm like, you are admitting what you did. And now, granted, I feel like my one mentor is very self aware and is healing this part of herself with another mentor, which is great because now she can talk about it. And now you can accept the fact that you are part of the problem. And then, it's not shifting. There's so many people coming out of it because she, in her mind and in her perspective, she thinks it's because everybody wanted to become a coach in 2020. No, it's because there's more people waking up to the fact that they don't want to work for somebody else. Maybe that's actually a reason too. So yeah, it's crazy to me that you can read somebody's content and be like, did you just self-reflect?
Right. And thank you for bringing that up,
Yeah.
because ethical marketing in the last couple of years has become the new marketing trend.
Mm.
And there's a woman in like one of the groups, and she started, calling out bad business practices. I know people who have worked with her and paid her like 50 grand,
Oh,
like
wow.
she was a super, super high-end mentor, and she was very verbally and emotionally abusive. She ghosted one of my friends before the end of the contract because the person had the gall to say, I don't question her about something, essentially.
Mm.
And she also has and these are illegal, by the way. She also has a non-disclosure contract thing in her contract. So the reason you never see any of these bad stories about this person is because the people were legally tied and they could not speak about it, right? And whenever I see her post, I'm like, do I block her because this is triggering as fuck? But on the other hand, it's kind of like I want to keep an eye on what people are doing. So,
Yeah.
and I also had an experience where I hired someone who talked about ethical business a lot, and she was very supportive, and she wasn't unethical in the ways that she was calling people out for. But over the year that I knew her, I found out that she very much was selling people that stuff they didn't need, right? She was selling people like a $2,000 launch program when she had already worked with this person in a, $2,000 group program, and the person didn't know her ICA. If you don't know your target market, you do not need a launch program, right?
Right.
So
Well,
just
yeah,
because someone says they're
very
ethical
valid.
doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they're actually ethical. And ethical is a relative term. I mean, just because they're ethical in their way doesn't mean it's going to match, your ethics. So
Right.
yeah. But all that
Yeah.
being said, not everybody in the coaching industry and healing industry, online industry is an asshole who's out to like rip people off.
Yeah.
I've made a lot of really good investments both in business and personal and spiritual and health coaching. Like, I believe in the power of mentorship. I say therapy saved my life, but it was purpose-driven coaches and healers that made it worth living.
Yeah.
So you just gotta like, well, and nobody had written a guide. We didn't know how to invest. This is a new industry. Like, nobody knew. So I was like, well, let me write a guide about everything that I know.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, thank you for bringing awareness to all of that. I feel like these are topics that people don't talk about that we should talk about more, especially because it's so like hush hush, don't talk about it. I feel like when I started talking about my issue with mentors and I have to hire another mentor, and I've even told my own mentor right now, I said to her, I'm very cautious about this because of this
Yeah.
happening. And she said, well, thank you for being vulnerable with me. She was like, it happened to me too. She was like, I will never, ever, ever, ever do this. And if I do, I will give you your money back. If you ever
Right.
feel like you're not safe, if you ever feel like I'm not helping or whatever, I will give you your money back. And that's okay. And you can go tell everybody about it. I don't really care, And I was
Right.
like, I feel like somebody that is not in, like, I just know, I'm using my intuition. I'm like, oh, she's authentic, and I feel like having that hard conversation, this is not working. I don't like this, whatever. I'm the same way with my clients. So I feel like my intuition was like, it's safe here. Her community is safe. And then talking to other people that have worked with her that also had the same
That's
experience.
important. Yeah.
So,
That's one of the things that I recommend is like, don't don't just look at somebody's testimonials, especially don't just look at somebody's testimonials on their website. If
right.
you're going to look at a testimonial, look at it on Google or in their Facebook page where they can't control the content, but even with
Mhm.
that, it's best to reach out to people and ask, because I've given, in the beginning of working with several of my coaches, I've left, well, the honeymoon phase, I've left really good reviews and they're still putting them up. But if you contact me, I will tell you, I do not feel that way, anymore.
Right.
So talking to people, it's something that it's just doing your due diligence, So I mean, it's a really smart thing to do. With my clients, I don't do refunds. I do what I call an escape clause. And so at any time, all they have to do is contact me 24 hours before their next session and say, hey, listen, this isn't working. They can give me a reason or not, whatever. And they're done. And they just owe me for the sessions that they've done. So if they've paid for the month and they've only had one session, or they changed their mind before they have the first session in the month or whatever, I would refund them for that month.
Yeah.
But there's no hoops to jump through. But I also make it very clear in my contracts that I can fire my clients. And I lay out all the reasons why, because if somebody, I may like them a lot, but if they're not doing the work and they're not making progress, and we'll address it. But if they're still not making progress after a minute, I'm going to open up that spot for somebody who I can actually help, you know, and,
Right.
maybe we'll pause the contract and they can come back later. I mean, I understand, God knows, like, life happens, but
Yeah.
somebody is just like, I had a person that I let her finish the contract, but she wanted a third contract. And I was like, no, you're not doing the work.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's how it should be. Like, um, I had one coach that was like, because I've stopped signing non-terminal contracts. I will not sign them. The last few mentors that I've worked with, I'm like, I'm fine with working with you. But I will not, you've got to take this non-termination clause out. You've got to add a termination clause that's fair. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. And people have been willing to do it. But I think the whole industry should switch to some form of that, you know,
Yeah.
and that should just become standard instead of, oh, I got your money and we don't care. your stuff.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that because I feel like the people that are newer to the industry, and I know that I just switched my contract to be this because one of my mentors, I specifically did it because I'm like, of what I got burned from. And I was like, oh, this is not happening. Like, I don't want people to feel like, I mean, there's only one time that somebody had to terminate because she's going through a divorce. So she had to pay for a lawyer. And I'm
Right.
like, that makes sense. You're not, I would feel kind of guilty that you're paying me and you can't pay for a lawyer. So we've
Right.
since started working together again after that. But I, I don't think also people feeling like they can, entrepreneurs can fire their clients because it's like, I know that's not talked about a lot either. So can you kind of talk about what like you put in your contract or a little bit about kind of explaining like what that means for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so the way that I have it worded is basically like, so the one of the big ways that I do sales very differently, and I teach sales and lead gen very differently, is that it's about making sure someone's a good fit. It's not about convincing somebody to buy. It is about, and just a preview into like the way that I do things, because it kind of all goes together. If you have a really good offer suite, that is really designed for your most highly qualified leads, the people that they are looking for a solution and they are ready to buy something. And those type of people, you need to be able to recognize them fast, because if you don't sell to them, if you don't have the sales skills, if you don't have the systems, you don't have the strategy set up, they're going to buy from somebody else. And if you are actually a soul-led entrepreneur who's actually put time and energy into training and getting mentorship, and you're good at what you do and you actually care about your clients, you want to be the person who sells to this person, because if you don't, they're going to buy from somebody and they're going to end up in a bad situation. Like I was talking to someone who had just bought into like one of my lower tier offers, and she got a short call with me as a bonus. And she actually looked up at the ceiling and she was like, Source, I get why I had to work with the previous mentor, but I would have much rather paid Heather. And a part of me was like, oh, and then a part of me was like, ow, ow, because I shrink back from tooting my own horn and talking about what I do and blah, blah, blah. I still have that tendency, and it's very common with us that are soul led. And, yeah, but if I had been louder last year, maybe she wouldn't have spent $10,000 with somebody who didn't help her, you know? So my whole thing is about making sure it's a good fit. And if you have a good offer suite, it allows you to really get to know somebody very quickly and pre-qualify them, but also build trust. And so I do a lot to make sure somebody's a good fit before they come in to work with me. And one of the things that I add into my offer suite, even in the lower tiers, is bonus calls with me, because that is really going to help me get an intuitive read on them and kind of see it's I'm kicking their tires, they're kicking mine, but I've designed it in a way that it's not eating up a lot of my time and I'm not over giving, but it is enough to give us a glimpse of what it's like to work together. And but even through all that, you don't know what it's going to be like until you get in it. You just don't. And especially if you are dealing with people with personality disorders, they can mask for a while, you know? So that's, and the situation that actually caused me to add this, I added it back in 2021. So a woman hired me, and then and my intuition warned me about her. She had a lot of warrior energy. She had a lot of like, I'm going to get stuff done. I'm going to make it happen, which was really positive. But then she mentioned some stuff about, other things going on in her personal life. And I was like, she got a lot of victim energy too. But I was like, we're going to work this out. And she argued with me about everything. And she didn't want to go back and do the foundational work, which even my clients who are already making 10 and 20K months, the first thing we do is go back and refine their target market, because it's one of the most poorly taught things on the planet. And so I was like, this is what we need to do. And she's like, I've already done this. And I'm like, but you're not making sales. You got 1,000 people in your Facebook group and you can't sell a $7 item. Like,
Right.
So she was missing sessions and she was just bitching and moaning and just a pain in my ass. And finally I was like, listen, and I didn't have the escape clause in at this time. And I was like, listen, you can just pay me for the sessions that you've done and just walk away. And she was real nasty about that whole thing. Like, and I was trying to be careful about who I allowed to hire me back then. I knew the power of filtering. I just didn't have the experience and know exactly what all the things. How, I don't know. I didn't know everything I know now about what questions to ask and how to structure your lower tiers and all this stuff. But it could still happen. It's less likely for that to happen to me now. But she did ultimately pay me the money that she owed me, but she was a massive biatch about it. And I was just like, okay, never more. And then I had another client at the same time that she finished, and there were things that were so joyful about working with this woman. Some calls, like every call I would get off feeling like, oh my God, it's amazing. And she would reach out to me afterwards, like an hour after the call, and she'd be like, okay, I've already done all the action steps. What else do I need to do? And I was like, oh my God, I love you. But she was, she was very, what did she do? Oh, she would message me, and I didn't have it in my contract specifically that I had 24 hours to, message back. So she would message me, and 2 minutes later on Voxer send me a message to tell me about the message. And
Oh
I
my
was like,
God. Oh
no.
my
So
God.
that was a lesson about having better boundaries. But yeah, like it's basically like if we're not vibing, if we're not getting along well, if I'm feeling drained after calls, if we're making action plans and they're showing up every week and they're not implementing any of it, right? If you're not, we all have our weeks. And so I'm always going to stop and be like, okay, what got in the way? And what, did it end up not being aligned? Do we need to tweak something? Do we need to talk about, mindset? Do we need to talk about something in your environment that's bothering you? Because business problems are not always business related directly. Um,
Right.
but if like every single week you're not making any progress, then it's going to be like, okay, we need to end this because this is a waste of your time. It's a waste of your money. It's also a waste of my time. And it's taking up space that I could be helping someone who is actually going to do something with my help,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Is there anything specific that you wanted to ask about the escape clause?
No, it's just, I just wanted you to kind of talk about it because I feel like the awareness of it is, I feel like entrepreneurs, I always say it's your business. One of my clients actually had came to me last week and was like, she was like, can I vent to you? And I was like, sure. She's like, I'm not talking about anybody specific, but there's this, that there's a situation that she was
Mhm.
in, and I was like, it's okay. You can vent to me,
Right,
give you advice. That's what I'm here for, you know? And so she was just telling me about it. And it came up it came to me. I was like, why don't you just fire her as a client?
right,
And she was like, what? Then I said, well, and then I was like, but what are you saying to yourself? Like, we had to figure out what story was coming up, why she was feeling this way,
yeah,
what all this stuff. So we kind of worked through that. And then I said, that's what the piece that I was trying to get her to realize is, why don't you just fire her? I didn't say that out loud, but I
right,
thought about it. Well, she just needs to fire her. So I was walking her through it. So she messaged me. It was like a couple days later. She said, so I fired her. And I was like, so happy, so proud. She was like, why didn't you just tell me that? I said, because I'm not that type of coach. I'm not doing that. Like,
mm,
I'm not going to tell you what you should do, but I'm going to help you walk through it because you can process it. I can tell you what you should do all day long, but that's not helping you. And it's definitely, not kind of where I'm coming from integrity, So I
right,
just wanted to know how your process was. And
yeah,
I also said to her, and by the way, let's send me your contract because I want to see what it says. Add that in there because that's, important. I then hearing you talk about it, I was like, oh, that's why I added it in there. I just thought I added it in there because there's been so many times I've been burned, and like, people, who knows, like, I guess from a legal standpoint, I don't ever really think about it from a legal standpoint, but people can get a little crazy that,
yep,
I'm like, just take your money back, just don't pay me, just go away, like,
yep,
just go away.
yep.
So yeah.
And that's the thing is like, I not all money is good money. That
Right.
is that is a very, very true saying. Like you might get $10,000 from a client, but the amount of hassle you're going to, first off, you may not be able to keep it. You may get it, but you may get refunded. And now the
Yeah.
Federal Trade Commission is on the warpath with online businesses because of all the shenanigans. And
Yeah.
Stripe has had problems with the FTC because of businesses running scams through them, not necessarily online businesses, but they're more on the lookout for it. And when you get refunds, Stripe has started kicking people off the platform, and you have no
Oh, wow.
recourse. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not just for refunds, but like, you know, if your marketing is overhyped, if you have bro marketing now, those are all, what we didn't realize is that these people who were paying so much money were teaching us illegal business practices. Not only are they unethical as fuck, but they're actually illegal. And I took a course on, I
Mm,
got certified in FTC marketing, compliant marketing last year, and it's crazy. Like all the stuff that you felt gross about is illegal. And then some of the stuff that you didn't necessarily think about is illegal.
right.
And so, but if you have refunds on your account, it is a big red flag, and you can lose your
Wow.
account, you
Yeah, I
know,
didn't know.
especially
That's
if
good to know.
somebody is like charging back. Now, if you go in and you're like, okay, things didn't work out, so I'm going to refund this person, that's probably not such a big deal, but I couldn't swear to that because I'm not a lawyer. But if
Right.
people are like pissed and they're like charging back through their card, that looks really, really bad. So you do want to be careful about who you sell to. And you know, when you're soul led, like I mean, I have a friend who she does websites, right? So it's not technically a spiritual business, but I know that she wants to support the actual soul-led entrepreneur. So it is a spiritual mission, even though it's not technically a spiritual business, right?
Right.
And if you're on this mission, then you need to, it needs to be sustainable. It needs to feel good to you. It needs to have you reaching the people that you're here to help. And you know, these mass marketing, bro marketing, boss babe tactics ain't
God. As
it.
soon as it's boss babe, I'm like, oh God.
Yeah,
No,
like
no.
boss babes are just bro marketers with tits. That's,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and not, I mean, I'm not saying everybody who calls themselves a boss babe is toxic, but it is a yellow flag in my book. Like if somebody starts talking
Oh
boss
yeah.
babe, I'm like, okay, let me look a little deeper, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Now thinking back to somebody called me a boss babe and I was like, no, I'm not that. And then she's like, oh no, not that part. And I'm like, no, but I'm not that at all.
It
Not
never
me at all.
resonated
Do
with
not
me.
call me that. No, thank you. Because I feel like when you do say boss babe, that's connected to the narcissism of the community, like of this, space. And basically, like you said, you know, uh, bro marketing with tits, because that's literally what it is. That's actually a good way to put it.
Yeah, like the whole like alpha film movement, and you know, it's they're definitely using the NLP to kind of like pump you up and then tear you down. You
Yeah.
know, it's so toxic. But there
Yeah.
are like, if you actually know your target market, and this is a distinction that I make because I spent a lot of money on coaches and courses and big names and blah blah blah, and everybody taught ideal client avatar the same. It was basically you're making up a fictional character. It's not helpful. It's mostly
Right.
demographics. It doesn't help you sell, right? So that's why the first thing I do is we go back and we're like, okay, you have a pretty good handle on it. You are making sales, but let's make your stuff really magnetic. So we've got to figure out who it is, you know, that you want to sell to. And when you know that and you have a really good handle on what actually matters about what matters, what you need to know about your target market, then you can reverse engineer your offers and tweak your offer suite so that it becomes a breadcrumb trail to the right people, and you make it very easy for them to come in and see what you're about. You add in things that let them have some interactions with you that still guard your energy but are, you know, helping to build that relationship. And this is the thing, this is one of the reasons why even I'm an expert in marketing and sales and lead gen. I still need help with my own stuff because I can't read the label from inside the jar. We're too close to it. And I've forgotten more about online marketing than most people will ever know. And so it looks so different to me. And but people, when I'm trying to talk to them, like they're like, yeah, you know, I mean, I need more leads. I need better leads. I need, you know, an easier, faster way to convert people without being pushy or gross. But they don't know what they don't know. So they don't know really the impact that's going to make. And they don't know like what that would actually look like. And so I give them ways to see what mentorship with me actually looks like. I get them, you know, glimpses into how I do things, and they're like, oh my God, this is really different from how other people do things. So there's ways to build your business that you don't have to be sleazy. It's really just like giving people an experience and building that relationship. And if it's the right fit, if it's a win-win, then they're going to buy, and if they don't buy right in that second, they're going to save up their money and, within the next 6 months to a year, come back and work with you.
Right.
Um, there's never a need for manipulation and grossness. It's just, and if you are soul led and this really is a part of your mission and you try to use that stuff, because I'll admit I did try to use it because I paid thousands of dollars for this. And I was like,
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing. So maybe they're right. I was like, it doesn't feel good, but maybe I'm just being too sensitive. I didn't realize I had CPTSD at the time. And now I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, no wonder, no wonder I was so easily manipulated. Because I was dysregulated as fuck. But I set out and I was like, I'm going to find a way of selling that doesn't suck. And I actually created a way that's actually, it gets to be fun and it's not pressure and it feels good. And I went from converting like less than 10% of the people I talked to converting like 70% of the people that I talked to. But part
Wow.
of the reason why my conversion rate is so high is because I don't get on calls with people until I'm really damn sure that they're a good fit and that I like them and that I actually want to work with them and they're ready.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that is probably the key advice. I mean, you've gave so many golden nuggets, but that is a huge advice, especially from the younger Lauren in sales of like,
Yeah,
I would get on calls 4 or 5
with
years ago
everybody.
for with everybody. And it's like, I would give so much advice that they don't need to work with me because I just gave you everything you need to know. And I'm just like, damn. So that quickly stopped. I mean, I still do my 30-minute call, but it's mainly of like how it's kind of like a vibe check, kind of like,
Yes.
is it, can I help you? Or do I know somebody else that can help you? Like,
Yep.
that's literally what it is now. I don't really talk about, people want to do like, unless they already know who I am, it would be like human design. Like, can I tell them, I can't tell you anything more than this is what we can do together in human
Right.
design. Like, I can't give you a 30-minute reading. I wish I could, but I can't. Like,
No, no, 30, you can't do a good 30-minute reading in human design in 30
yeah,
minutes. That's insane. It's complicated. And
yeah,
I love what you said, like it is a vibe check. Like
yeah,
most of the pre-qualifying can be done, and ideally to preserve your time and energy should be done through their interactions with you in your offer suite and in strategic DMs, right?
right.
And when you do that, then you've got a pretty good idea. You can just sell in the DMs. I I'm very sensitive auditorially and watching people's body languages. So I get so much more out of a call than I do just in the DMs, but I do teach
Yeah,
DM selling too. But it really is like you've got to know the right questions to ask. You've got to understand, positive buyer psychology, not manipulative buyer psychology, because they're
right.
different.
Yeah,
And really should be like I say I don't really have sales calls. I do consult calls because when
yeah,
somebody gets on a call with me, even if I'm like 90% certain that they're qualified, they're ready, that I'd like to work with them, it's never a foregone conclusion that I'm going to pitch. It's okay, we're going to go, like, this is where we are, this is what I see right now. By the end of this call, I'm going to know, 99% of the time I'm going to know whether I can help them, whether I want to help them, and whether they're ready.
yeah,
But it's never a foregone conclusion. It really is a consult to see. And then, like you said, like there may be someone that they in my network that they need to work with first. And of course, it's not like, oh, you're not working with me, so you have to go work with Lauren. But it's like,
right,
I know this person, she does human design. I really think you should go talk to her before you can work with me. Because again, protecting my energy, like if they're not in the right place, this is one of the things I preach about with your target market. You really need to know the right starting point, because if they're not at the right starting point, if you're a graduate level course and they're at freshman level, they're not going to get good results, which is going to be horrible for them. It's going to be horrible for you. um so yeah.
yeah. I love that. So before we wrap up, what is like one change a coach or like a coach, mentor, whatever they call themselves, could implement this week, like right now, when they're listening to this
Mhm.
podcast, that could give them immediate, like, light pressure, more effective, a sales process aligned with their business
The more
buyers?
effective. Hmm. Oh gosh, it's hard because I don't know the level that they're at. Um, I'll say like the first thing that I do with people, like I said, is going back to that target market. So look at their starting point. Get really clear, like look at the people you've already worked with. I don't care if they're free clients, paid clients, whatever. Look at the people that you've already worked with and the people that you most enjoyed working with who also got really great results. What was their starting point? Look at that. And if you're marketing to people who have that same starting point and who have like the same psychographics as those people that you've already worked with and had success with, and you start using that in your marketing and thinking about, how you can incorporate that information into your offer suite, it's going to make your sales a lot easier. But if you're soul led and you're making sales, but you still don't feel great about it, there are some books out there. I haven't read them. I know they exist. I don't know how great they are, but there are books out there that talk about like positive selling. You can come talk to me. Um, you need to, if you are going, even if this is this whole mission, right? You need to make money and be able to thrive. Because if you're not making money, if you're stressed about your bills, then you're not going to be as present for your clients. You're not going to be able to help them as well. So you need to learn to sell, but you need to learn to sell in a way that feels good to you. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And the cycle continues. Yes. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for joining us on today's episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with somebody that you feel that would gain knowledge from listening to this. Make sure you check out all of her links and her books below. And if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this, her links will be below in the description box. Stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next week.